Okay, a quick hit right now discussing what happened this morning in the last couple weeks with regard to someone who was in charge on October 7th and being appointed potentially or promoted, even though the investigation hasn't been completed and the Nahal owes Lookout women families do not have answers. First and foremost, my heart goes out to those families. I cannot imagine what they're going through. And also seeing that there's so many leaders within the IDF who are still in positions of power and are still making appointments has to be very, very concerning. So it broke this morning that someone was promoted within the Gaza division. It says Lieutenant Colonel A, who ignored the observation warning on the eve of October 7th events. He was promoted, and Defense Minister Yisrael Katz stopped it. So the Minister of Defense reminds the Chief of Staff, Herzi Halevi, you have to refrain from any appointments. Then it came out that he wasn't actually appointed. He was assuming a job without actually being promoted. And that was done by Shlomi Binder, who also is involved with October 7th and it needs to be investigated what he knew and what kind of decisions he was encouraging. And the families of the women who perished at Nahal Oz are just saying that they want to have an investigation and they want to have answers as to what happened and how come the warnings didn't help Israel succeed in defending the border on October 7th. Were they ignored? Were they listened to and then they had bad strategy? What's the deal? The families still don't know and they want to know. So then it comes out from Doron Kadosh at Army Radio. The defense minister and the chief of staff learned about it from the Galatz report, and the head of military intelligence made the decision without informing the chief of staff. New details were reported this evening. It was just done by Shlomi, by Binder, head of military intelligence now, whereas participating in a security assessment meeting. They exited there informed of the public outcry and had to stop. But it also says Lieutenant Colonel A. And Ayal Eshel, father of Roni Eshel, who fell at Nahal Oz, very famous tape of her crying out about what was going on the border on October 7th morning, the recording. And Ayal Eshel says, no, I do not intend to allow Aryeh Amidror, the Gaza Division's commander on October 7th, to hide behind the name Lieutenant Colonel A. Amidror is one of those directly responsible for the October 7th failure. The despicable and absurd attempt to appoint him to a new position in the intelligence unit is a new low that constitutes further proof that the failed system cannot investigate itself. And a keen observer responded saying, as it was published, as Lieutenant Colonel A responded to the emails to 8200 about the Jericho wall plan that was discovered from Hamas, it says, the scenario described, or quote, the scenario described is completely imaginary, and we need to see where we filter out and what is intended for the purpose of WASA and the purpose of, and the display of purpose and what is realistic, and dismissed it as completely improbable and not something that needs to be taken seriously. Any person who's seeing this with an unbiased perspective can understand how the families of those who fell on October 7th would be deeply troubled that this individual would be given a promotion or that he's still in uniform. And you know something? Maybe an investigation clears him and he's totally fine. But without an investigation and without knowing what's going on, it's like picking a scab off of a wound every single day. That's a little bit of what's going on January 16th with the families of the fallen from Nahal Oz and the status of the investigation. It's about time that they actually are given all of the information.